The composer Joan Tower has won many awards, including the prestigious and lucrative Grawemeyer Award in 1990. But for her, the biggest honor came when the Library of Congress announced that they would hold her manuscripts, papers, and photos in their archives in a collection called the Joan Tower Papers.
To me, that was the biggest award I could have gotten. And I actually cried when they told me, because it means that my music will have an institutional place to be gotten from. They will take care of it, and it'll be there in an important place. That was the biggest award I ever got.
This is Classical Gas, a podcast series produced by Classical Voice North America. I'm Gail Wein. At age 87, Joan Tower is as active and vibrant as ever. Our conversation covered the challenges and rewards of composing, her best piece of advice for composition students, and how she worked through her grief on the loss of her husband of 50 years. I asked her how she first got interested in music.
I took to water very early on when I was 6 years old as a piano student.
And then?
And then I played the piano a lot. And then we moved to South America. And my father, who was also very musical, actually understood that I needed to do music. So he got me a piano and a piano teacher wherever we went. And we were in some pretty far out places like La Paz, Bolivia. And he found a German teacher there, Mrs. von Stroheim. She was a German witch.
What did you learn from her?
Oh, I learned how to practice. She was on me right from the get-go. I was very lucky to get her, actually. My parents thought I needed more discipline in school, so they put me into a boarding school where I also broke all the rules.
Wait, when were you not breaking the rules? That's what I want to know. When did that happen, when you were not breaking the rules?
When I was about 75.
It's because you made the rules.
Rules need to be broken, right?
The other day, you told me that composing is torture and rewarding. Without sounding like my therapist, can you say more about that?
Well, I think it is. It's both. The process for me is difficult, and hasn't gotten actually that easier over the years. Even though I've had some success with it, that's helped because it's built my confidence up a little to know that some of the music that I've written is being played again. But it's a very challenging process and continues to be. I now have a comfort zone which is in the same room where I compose. It's a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle, not a crossword puzzle. And it's become like a nice haven because you have a piece in a puzzle and it goes somewhere. It's a fact that piece goes somewhere in this puzzle. You just have to find the place where it goes. But knowing that it has a definite place is very exciting. It's like a search, like being a detective. You have to find the clues or whatever. But it's also very much like composing, except that you know it has a place. In composing, you don't know that at all. You don't know whether that belongs there or not, and it's much more challenging as to where is that place.
Yeah.
So having these two activities in the same room is kind of comforting in a way, but I spend more time at the puzzle than I do at composing, which still to this day bothers me. I should be going the other way. It should be just a little break that I go on, but I don't. I get obsessed with it, Yeah.
But does it clear your mind or something?
Yeah, it does, and it's meditative, and it's better than other sanctuaries like drinking or something. That's the torture part. The rewards at the end of the day, are significant. I mean, my music has taken me all over the place. It's taken me to so many beautiful places, and I've met so many really good friends through them playing my music. It's become a beautiful, that side is very beautiful when it works, So I know that there is that down the road, but I have to write a good piece in order to make that happen.
Well, there's the pressure. There is the pressure.
Yes.
No pressure.
Yeah.
I know that a number of your recent compositions have been inspired, for the lack of a better term, by the illness and passing of your husband, Jeff. And I suppose everything you write anyway is colored by all your experiences. But can you just talk about kind of going through this chapter of your life with the compositions?
Well, when my husband died, things changed significantly. As I said, the bottom dropped out, basically. My support system. I don't have kids, so he was my major support. He was my family. And I had to find a way to survive through other things. Other friends. Friends became very important. Music still became very important, but I couldn't compose. I couldn't concentrate. I didn't have the confidence. That pretty much stopped for the first time in 60 years. But I did start playing the piano again. And I found my old friends, Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, all those guys. And I created a little recital for myself that I memorized. And that became a different kind of sanctuary because it was musical, and because going back into those structured musical spaces was very heartwarming to me. So that was a sanctuary, and then the last sanctuary was the puzzle. And between those three things, my friends, my old composer friends, playing the piano, and the puzzle, I survived. I survived it. But what happened was my compositional style changed when I came back to it.
Oh, how did it change?
Well, I wrote a little piece called Love Letter for piano, which I played in the TED Talk, and everybody just loved this piece, and they were like, wow, this is such a different piece from you. It was very heartfelt. It was written before my husband died, and it was just a love letter to him. And then I wrote a cello concerto called A New Day for Elisa Weilenstein, and that took on some of the same feeling, very heartfelt. It's about a new day with my husband. In other words, would that day actually happen? So that has mixed blessings about it. And then I wrote a sextet for Eighth Blackbird, Bang on a Can, and Collage, which is called Into the Night, which is also to him what's going to happen after the night, you know. Then I wrote a piece for saxophone, a saxophone concerto for Stephen Banks, and that took off more directly on the piano piece because there's a theme that's these climbing fifths that keep returning in the sax concerto. And then I wrote just last year a string quartet called To Jeff with Love. I just put it out front. To Jeff with Love.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about inspiration. I'm curious because I know every day you sit down to compose at a certain time a day, every day, and you know, beyond just this particular period in your life, just all the time. What do you do when you sit down to compose? Inspiration is it's just not coming. What do you do?
Well, it's true. I have a real schedule and nothing interferes with it. I tell that to my students. I said, listen, if your friend calls you and says, listen, I need to talk to you, and you say, okay, I can talk to you at 5 when I finish, Can you wait? Yeah, I guess so. But you have to set these priorities. You have to clear that space. And I've learned that. I learned that a long time ago. And so I go from 2 to 6 now, actually, rather than 2 to 5. And I need that amount of time to not have anything happening. Because, as again, I tell my students, sometimes nothing happens. You spend an hour plugging away, and it's like nothing happens, or something happens, but it's destroyed the next day because it's just not working. You have to allow for time to get down in the mud and really try to get into this mysterious thing that you're trying to make work. It takes time, and it takes a lot of patience.
So when the notes aren't coming, you just like sit with it?
Yeah, or you dance around it, or you try to do something else, like orchestrate something, or I don't know. But you don't leave. You don't leave. I used to leave when I was in my 20s. I'd say, "Oh, I gotta change the sheets," or "Oh, I have to clean the room." "Oh, no, I have to make a couple of phone calls." I used to run, and I knew I was running. Now I don't do that because I learned that's running.
Yeah. You've been teaching for a long, long time. What do you get out of it?
That's a good question. I've been teaching them for 60 years. I love to see if I can get a young person to develop what I call a fuel line with music, where they get hooked up to this line that will give them a lot of rewards later on. It's not going to happen right away. And if they can have one experience with one performer who loves their piece and wants to play it again, or with another at a concert of their music, somebody comes up and says, "Oh, I love your piece. Can you write a piece for me?" If I can get them to produce that kind of piece, I feel like I've really accomplished something. That's not easy. It's not easy.
What do you think is the most important aspect of teaching?
Having them develop their own voice, which is also not easy.
Yeah. All right. Of the dozens and dozens and dozens of pieces you've written, can you talk about one or two that really stand out for you?
That's so hard. It's like picking one of your children, you know what I mean? It also has to do with how the world has received those pieces. Because there are some pieces that keep getting played and over and over again. And so you think, oh, well, I guess those are the most successful pieces. But it also depends on the culture of the music world. So, for example, flutists love composers, and they get more music written for their instrument than any other instrument does. Maybe with the exception of percussion, which has come up quite a bit in the last few years. So when you write a piece for flute, anything with flute, it's going to be played because they're eager and they're hungry.
And there's zillions of them.
And there's a lot of them. That's true. That is true. But it's a culture, too. There are a lot of violinists, too.
Yeah.
But violinists don't go out as much as flutists do to get music written.
What would you tell a young composer, or what do you tell younger composers that have aspirations to be a composer as their profession?
To start their own group. I always say that because a lot of the composers that we know who are well-known or have been doing really well are people who started their own groups. There are many of them.
And you had Da Capo.
Yeah, and there's also, I mean, there's different ways of starting your own group. You don't have to be actually a performer to do it. I mean, Bang on a Can is run by three people who don't play any, and they don't play. They are the presenters of that group, Bang on a Can All Stars. They figured it out, and they raised the money for it, and they did a fantastic job of creating a vision and putting an audience of their choice behind it. So that's one way. That's kind of a superstar and high energy way. But then there's another group called the Common Sense Collective. I'm not sure how active they are right now, but when they graduated from Yale, there were 8 of them. They decided they would form a group, and they would hire a string quartet, and they would go into a great environment like Banff or something, and they would write for this string quartet, and the string quartet would play the 8 pieces and record them there, and they would all hang out in this wonderful environment on the mountains and of Canada, and this became a win-win for them because every year they had to write something for somebody, and they got to hang out with each other in some beautiful place.
I asked you about some compositions of yours that stand out, but can you separate the rest of your life from that and talk about what some of your greatest accomplishments have been?
It always boils down to writing the best piece possible. No matter how many awards you get, how big the awards are, I've gotten some. It's really trying to write the best, strongest piece you can come up with. That's the bottom line. And that's what I tell my students. If you write a really good solo flute piece, it will be played not only once, but several times. It'll have legs. To me, that's the goal. Because the pieces need to have legs.
Yeah.
And they need to go somewhere. You don't want them dying every time you write a piece, that they keep going on the shelf, because that's very debilitating.
Right. Right. You mentioned that the Library of Congress is collecting your papers. Can you just tell me a bit more about that and what that means to you?
To me, that was the biggest award I could have gotten. And I actually cried when they told me, because it means that my music will have an institutional place to be gotten from. They will take care of it, and it'll be there in an important place. That was the biggest award I ever got.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's the last question.
Okay.
Joan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail, for such interesting questions.
Well, thanks for the interesting answers.
Okay.
The composer Joan Tower. This is Classical Gas. I'm Gail Wein, producer and host of this podcast series. Thanks for listening.